You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, good morning, bonjour. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this Tuesday, the 21st day of October. Great to have you with us here on 702. I hope you're good this morning and I hope you're keeping warm because, is it cold or not? This weather in Johannesburg behaving like Cape Town weather. But please keep warm out there. It's 011-883-0702. That's the number to dial on the 702 open line. For your WhatsApps, we're on 072-702-1702. Almost 1 million matric pupils will be sitting for their exams today. The Basic Education Minister said yesterday that it's all systems go. So all the matriculants will be writing. And I just want us to wish them well. Whether it's your kids, your neighbors, maybe you are the one writing, listening to us right now, your cousins, your loved ones, please let's wish the class of 2025 well. Let's pray for them if you believe in prayer. Wish them well, show them some love and send some positive vibes, please. If you're a matriculant, how are you feeling? But as a parent of a matriculant, how are you preparing your children in matric? My mom used to wake us up in the early hours of the morning. I remember being woken up at 3 a.m. to study, pinching me. That trauma still haunts me today. Have you suspended your children's chores at home who are in matric so that they can focus on studying? Have you confiscated their devices because you don't want them to be on social media and on YouTube? Are they banned from social media during this period? How are you helping them stay focused and get ready for the exams? I'll take your calls and WhatsApps on that. But also, what do you think of the DA's economic inclusion bill, which calls, in fact, they call it a bold alternative to broad-based black economic empowerment? So the party is arguing that BBBEE has failed to produce poverty or unemployment has become a tool for corruption that benefits politically connected elites. You may have seen yesterday, the organization says this new bill that they're putting up seeks to replace years of what it called ineffective empowerment policies that have left millions of South Africans unemployed, impoverished and hopeless. And when you look at the plan, you'll see that there's a bigger focus on alternative models that align with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And they argue that serve as a universal call to action for government, business and civil society to end poverty, to address inequality and create a path towards sustainable economic growth by 2030. So they're saying, instead of focusing too much on ownership, how about we focus on job creation, for instance? And you can read more, of course, about this proposal by the Democratic Alliance. I've got some thoughts about that. I do think that often the mistake we make is we throw but again, what's that saying they say? Bongani said it this morning. You throw the water, or with the bathtub. What's that saying? Someone please remind me. You throw the water with the bathtub, or you throw the child with the bathtub. Please remind me. This just escaped me. You throw the baby with the water. What a funny saying. But that's precisely what I think often happens when we talk about BBBEE, is you want to think that it, in its entirety, it's a big failure, even its intentions. And I think that's a mistake that we made. BBBEE, like any other policy, like any other system, is bound to be exploited. I mean, nothing is devoid from the possibility of exploitation. That's why even religion, as sacred as other people may think religion is, it can also be exploited. There are sacred things that can be exploited. So to put up BBBEE as if, oh, look at this, great. We must look at the failures of this policy, but not try put it out there as if it's the only thing that gets exploited. I think we need to ask questions about how it's been implemented, questions around how you strengthen it so that its true intentions are truly expressed. And you are closing the loopholes that allow for the politicians we have to take advantage of that, together with the business people that they often work with. So let me know what you think of these thoughts by the Democratic Alliance. I think black people are not just supposed to be the participants in this economy. We're supposed to be owners of this economy as well. So if we're thinking about any policy or system that tries to level the playing field, we must have at the top of our minds the need and intention to bring black people into the ownership level. Because during apartheid, it was okay. It was like usual for us to participate even in the certain aspects of the economy, not even all of them. And now that we've got our democracy, we need to ensure that the playing field is leveled and all of us have the opportunities. I'll tell you more what my thoughts are about this, but please give me a call on 011-883-0702. Let me know what you think of the plan.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, 16 minutes after 9 o'clock, Tandeka on the WhatsApp line laughing at me for having forgotten that saying and says, Clement, you remind me of you can't force the river to drink the donkey. Do you remember that, Abel? It was, who was it? It was the minister of Derco at the time. What was her name? Uchwa Limpopo. What was her name? The minister of Derco at not Mantua. Maite Nkwana Mashavani. Remember Maite Nkwana Mashavani? She had an interview was it on the BBC? And she was trying to say you can force a donkey to the river, but you can't force it to drink. And she said it the other way around, probably the way I said what I was trying to say about about throwing the baby with the bathtub. Let's go to your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
Morning team, Lawelanya from Rehabad. Clement, I hear you talking about what parents are doing to help the matriculants. I want to take it one step further. Make appeal to those owners of shabeens, taverns, chisinyamas, car washes. If you know there's matriculants on your block, please just ease down on the music and the noise level, just to help these children concentrate as they are doing their final preparations. Please. Thank you.
Good morning, Clement. Shout out to the class of 2025. You have our support, our love, our prayers are with you, the teachers, vigilators, all the educators. We wishing all of you very well, and a special shout out to my niece Caitlin Snyders and to my nephew LJ. All the best. We love you. Please stay focused. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Please stay focused. We're sending you positive vibes. Let's go to John, who's calling us from the Pretoria CBD. John, good morning.
Hi, Clement. It's actually Alan, but I want to talk about the DA's proposal of the all-inclusive economic strategy and replacing it with BBBEE. My question is, how is it going to affect the Khoisan so-called colored nation? Because it's my view that it's both positive and negative. Positive if it's needs-based. Negative because this community has been marginalized for the past 30 years and is not considered when it comes to these type of issues. How is the DA's proposals going to affect this community? Because, as I've said, they are marginalized. Mostly the poor now in South Africa, especially in the rural areas. And how are we considering that the KL Act is not yet law? How are we going to bring this community to be considered and put on the forefront, since they are taking race-based economics away? Because that is negatively going to impact on that community. And that is my question to the DA. How and whoever, if they take it forward. But we will make representations both to the DA, to Helen Zeller, and as well as the presidency, to take the Khoisan Nation. And I want to make a proposal to you as well, Clement, on your show. Please invite Khoisan people onto your show as guests.
Okay,
because I think it's something that you must take into consideration.
Okay,
because all your guests are excluding the Khoisan people.
Okay, what do you mean, John? So are you saying that if we talk about any other subject, let's go and find someone who is a Khoisan who can speak on that subject? Or are you saying bring them on to raise their issues? Because that we have done.
Is that? Well, I might have missed it, because I'm concerned when I'm listening to you.
Okay.
That your guests are mostly not from.
Yeah, no. We have heard when we talk about those issues, unless you're saying to me that try and be more representative and include Khoisan people. So when you talk about, for argument's sake, gender-based violence, be intentional about going to get a Khoisan person. But if you're talking about addressing their issues, I mean, many times I've spoken to Khoisan people and the people who represent their interests, when people have gone to even march and sleep outside the union buildings, trying to get the attention of the president to hear their issues. I've spoken to them about that in the past. So that's happened, John. But also, if you've got people you think we can have conversations about, please, I would like your suggestions, because that's why we've got that feature on every Wednesday called Listener's Choice Feature. That's an opportunity for you, John, to send me an email on cm@702.co.za and say, Clem, please can you talk about this issue? And here's a guest that I suggest, and then we'll do our own research on the side and bring in that conversation. So please do that, John, if you've got something specific you want us to talk about. Stanley, you're calling from Johannesburg. What do you want to say about the Democratic Alliance?
Yeah, man. You see, I wanted to raise this issue that... am I audible? Let me start there.
You're very clear, my brother. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to address this thing of BBBEE. In fact, I don't think there is anything wrong with the BBBEE. And basically, the ANC, the DA is riding on a crest wave that was started by the issue of Starlink and the proposal that was coming from Elon Musk, in the sense that they say they can only invest here if we move away ownership and control as part and parcel of the BBBEE. And I don't think it's a fair thing. And when the DA says BBBEE has failed, that is not correct. I mean, previously we had job preservation in our country, and blacks were reduced to becoming packers and hewers of wood. Currently, we find them in management, in supervision, and everywhere. But also to address the issue that was addressed by my Khoisan brother here, BBBEE is not a black as in African thing. It is an issue of all previously disadvantaged communities, and it's defined as such in the Act itself. Now, if there has not been a focused affirming of those particular people, we need to research it, and we need to go with speed towards affirming them, because no one must feel excluded in the transformation of our economy. But stats talks differently to what the DA is speaking about. I mean, currently blacks have moved into suburbs, they've moved into management, and when I say blacks, I'm being broadly, I mean from Indian to colored. And that is why the areas where they're coming from looks abundant, because the more people get development, they move out of the township, out of the previous enclaves where they have been actually, let me say, caged in the township. So I feel DA wants to continue to pursue an apartheid agenda of separate development and excluding previously marginalized communities out of the mainstream of ownership and control in business and in the mainstream of the economy of the country.
Yeah, Tabo in Johannesburg, well, thank you so much for, Stanley, thank you so much for your thoughts there. So someone was asking, what alternative is the DA providing? They were asking for that clarity. Well, in other words, the DA is saying BBBEE must be replaced with some kind of a scoring that is based on sustainable development goals and not the racial makeup of its shareholding. But that's the mistake being made, because BBBEE, right? The scoring of BBBEE, in my understanding, is not just about the racial makeup of the company. There are many other codes like ownership, skills development, management control, enterprise and supply development, and all of these other codes are just as critical. But the impression that I suppose the Democratic Alliance wants to create is that BBBEE only exists for that. It's just ownership, bring in black people. No, if you look broadly at how BBBEE is actually structured, there are many other codes. The scoring is not just about the racial makeup of the company. It's not. But also, those who are trying to argue for job creation to somehow be the replacement, which, by the way, BBBEE also advocates for, and you're saying, no, the focus must be on job creation as opposed to ownership. Right? Do you think black people exist to just participate in the economy? Black people must not only be the beneficiaries of this contribution to society. They must also be owners of this economy. This approach, yes, will benefit poor people. The DA's approach, who are predominantly black, it will address socioeconomic ills, because you're getting companies that are specifically targeting these goals, which is great. But equally so, if you are serious about transformation and leveling the playing field, you need an approach that is specific and deliberate about giving black-owned companies an opportunity who can also deliver on these goals. I mean, we have the highest levels of inequality in this country. At some point, we're talking about the top 10% of South Africans taking about 90% of the wealth. If legislation is amended and the scoring is based on sustainable development goals, I mean, that contribution to society, how does that address transformation, given that the economy still continues to be so unequal, with black people still predominantly outside the mainstream economy? So that's why we must always go back to, what are the intentions of BBBEE? And how do we close the loopholes and ensure that the intentions of this policy are actually expressed, as opposed to just get emotional about what the African National Congress, by and large, because they are the ones that have been in charge for the longest since this policy has been implemented. Some of their politicians have exploited this. Some of the business people have exploited this. So I'm not saying it's a perfect policy, far from it. But have you seen the levels of compliance with BBBEE? As imperfect as it is, they've been the lowest. So if you take away a system that forces institutions to transform, what's going to happen when already the transformation is slow with the current legislation? Bongani, you are calling from Reimsach. All right, before we go to Bongani, let's take a quick ad break and we'll come back with headlines and go to some more calls and WhatsApps. Bongani, Mike, Semi, I see you.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Your calls on 011-883-0702. WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
Clemmy, good morning, man. Flores here from the beautiful sunny Western Cape. Clemmy, for once I agree with the DA. Yes, this whole BEE thing needs to be scrapped. It only serves a few elites. Cyril Ramaphosa is a shining example of a BEE product. And let me tell you, we all need to benefit. Black, white, yellow, Indian, colored. We all need to benefit from it. So yeah, at least we need to come up with a draft that will really push us as a nation economically forward, and no one needs to be left behind. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Good morning, Clement. On the BEE debate, I think we must take cognizance of the fact that BEE is not only the criteria that is used to award tenders. There's also pricing and functionality criteria, meaning the technical aspects of the specifications. So the custodians of awarding tenders, which are the procurement practitioners, they need to give us reasons for awarding tenders on the basis of BEE or functionality or pricing, because there are inconsistencies in terms of which criteria would weigh more on a specific tender. So the problem is we don't get to see those reasons. Hence, the most influential person in the awarding committee would tend to sway in or will have to have more, he will have more influence in the awarding of the tender. So it ends up depending on the individual. Bazuka from Pretoria.
Good morning, 702. It's Jeannie speaking. I would just like to say, every time the DA makes a move, they are so prepared to handle what they are saying and to prove what they are saying is exactly what is happening. This has gone on from 1994. This is problems that came along from the very start of this law. Now, if they say this is not right, there's the wrong people are getting help here and not the people without work and qualifications. It's not those people that I help. It's people that the ANC choose to help. And this has been going on, and how are they going to stop it now? If you listen what is happening in the ANC. The corruption. How are we going to stop it? If somebody don't, just stop and read what is said. Because what they said is making 100% sense. Thank you.
Look, what happens next time when the DA comes for employment equity? The Employment Equity Act. What happens if the DA next time says, no, it's okay for a company to have 98% of white people working there, even in senior positions. You don't need to transform as a company. What happens if they come for the Employment Equity Act? Do you think many of us are going to have the opportunities, like people who come after us who look like us, they're going to have the opportunities to do that? Nobody is saying here BBBEE is perfect, right? In fact, I was looking at the numbers collated by the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Commission, and I've interviewed the commissioner at BBBEE many times, and different commissioners who have come in there. And the numbers I've looked at are not encouraging. So we agree there. Those numbers show that the number of black businesses, of black business owners had actually decreased at some point. The numbers show that there are still issues around verifying the BEE levels of companies. Those numbers I looked at show that there's still issues with fronting. But instead of scrapping the legislation, why don't you rather push for the strengthening of the regulatory frameworks? Because there has been some failure to regulate the policy. I mean, you look at the commission, which is tasked with ensuring that companies and government comply with and implement broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Act. What are they doing to ensure implementation? What are they doing to ensure no fronting takes place, to ensure politicians are not the sole beneficiaries? Companies are interpreting the codes as they please, and there is no effective monitoring or regulating them. Why don't we try fix that? Because if you accept that there are sectors of the economy where black business is still struggling to penetrate, then how is this new proposal by the by the Democratic Alliance going to help that black business that's struggling to penetrate in that white-dominated sector? What are they going to do? What opportunities are they going to have? I mean, this is a Democratic Alliance that rejected racial classification at their policy conference. I mean, racial classification, guys, that's quite key in addressing and redressing laws in South Africa, in effectively redressing the injustices of the past. I mean, how do you acknowledge that black people were disadvantaged by the apartheid system and were systematically locked out of opportunities because of their race? Remember, black people were not locked out of opportunities because they are poor. It was systematic. It was because of their race. So you acknowledge that the apartheid system systematically locked out opportunities for black people because of their race, and yet you believe race is not a proxy for disadvantage? I mean, go and read even the World Bank report. It says race is the most important determinant of life in South Africa. Inequalities we have today are the results of the apartheid system. Apartheid was engineered based on race. You can't romanticize the advances that a very small size of black middle class that have made to overcome poverty and empower themselves. And you romanticize that and make it the story for black people. There are millions of black South Africans who are still trapped in poverty for the foreseeable future. And they also deserve an opportunity to be owners and active participants in this economy. And I don't see how this proposal by the Democratic Alliance advances that. It's 19 minutes before 10 o'clock. Silo, Mpo, Mo, I'll start with your calls after this.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
15 minutes before 10 o'clock. Bongani, you're calling from Reimsach. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. So
Sure.
I just wanted to make a small contribution because you keep referring to apartheid, which is quite common and popular, and we all know. But I just wanted to remind you that 19 years before apartheid, there was the Natives Land Act of 1913, which is also called the Black Land Act. What it aimed to do was to reduce the ownership of land to black people to only 8.7%. But it also limited the amount of black participation in the land itself in the form of a lease. If you remember, by that time, the economy was running on agriculture. So what black people and white people did was that they because there was rich and white people, but there was a lot of there was rich and poor white people, but there was a lot of poor white people who couldn't farm their own lands. What they then did, they took on black people to farm their farms using their own equipment, own seeds and stuff like that. And then at the end of the harvest, then they would share the harvest. That way, I think it was like more a 50-50 split. But what that Natives Land Act also did, it stopped that. So that to force black people to move from the farming areas to come and become cheap labor in the big towns. Because at the time, it was when the Witwatersrand was starting with the gold and stuff like that. And in the Northern Cape, they were doing your diamonds and stuff like that. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that DA saying race-based economic empowerment is not good. It's just totally absurd.
Yeah, and I think, the point you're raising there, Native Land Act and how that systematically reduced the ownership of land among black people. How do we bring black people back to having land back, their land back? So the DA then will argue that, no, don't do that because then that is race-based again. So that doesn't make sense for me. Apartheid was very clear. It was systematic. It was black people can't be allowed to own land like this. Black people can't be allowed in certain sectors of the economy. How do we just move on after democracy as if there's no need for us to try and reverse those injustices and the missed opportunities on black people's part as a result of the apartheid laws?
Yeah, no. I hear you. And I think the other point I want to also make is that when people keep saying land, I think some tend to take it literal. Land back in the day it meant economy, the economy itself. Like if we use the example that I made of 1913. But now when we say land, it kind of has a different meaning. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. Bongani, in Remsach, thank you so much for your thoughts, man. Mpo, you're in Rosebank. What do you think?
Clement, but I think, so with the BEE and the Employment Economic Act quota system, is that, Clement, these are good on paper and they're great. So now the DA does not want to say because a few people took advantage of the system and they found loopholes, which is what human beings do. They always look for a loophole and to benefit.
In any system.
In any system. All we have to do is to increase the security measures so that people are not allowed to take advantage of the system. That way we can regulate and make it work better and the way it was designed to benefit the people. That's what we need to fix, not do away with the entire thing.
That's it. And I mean, they never propose anything else that still works for the people that were disadvantaged by apartheid. Every time they come up with these alternative plans, it somehow like it misses the point that the black people who are systematically moved away from these opportunities, how are they going to be able to benefit from the system that's an alternative for you?
And the thing with the DA is they try to move away from the whole race talks because they don't want to acknowledge that we are all from different races. There are black people, there are colored people, there are Indian people, there are white people, there are Chinese people. Until you accept that we have different people in this country and this is who they are, these are the classes of the people, and you can address them as the different races and as human beings after that, and you acknowledge it, and then you can work forward. But if you still say we are all the same, we are not all the same. We are not equal.
No, true. Mpo in Rosebank, thank you. Mo, you're in the East End. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Good morning. Thank you. Clement, BEE is a very important policy for this country. And it is important for South Africans to remember its true purpose, not what the DA is busy rubbishing it as. BEE is not focused on tenders only. It is meant to open up the economy. The masses of this country were excluded in the mainstream economy. And BEE was meant to create an opportunity for the masses or the previously disadvantaged, black, Indian, white, colored, because whites are benefiting from the BEE policy itself, as long as they comply in terms of ownership. You know, they are benefiting, and many. And I am in that space. I'm in a manufacturing space. I can tell you that if you were approaching companies like Eskom, Telkom, ArcelorMittal at that time, you wouldn't get in because they would tell you there's an existing 10-year contract with a white-owned company.
Yes.
And this contract would only benefit white companies who are subcontracted to the main contract. So effectively, black business would not even be seen. You will come only to collect scrap, and that's it. So South Africans need to understand BEE is not about tenders. Tenders need to be regulated. That's a fair point. We've identified gaps there, but there are gaps, and we have the BEE Commission. It is time that the BEE Commission comes up to the party and plays its role, because its role is to make sure that it is enforced, it monitors, and it makes sure that where there's fronting, people are punished and blacklisted accordingly. Companies that do not comply with the act, and people must understand, it is not only limited to government business. It is limited to all sectors of business in South Africa to say, if you are Airbus in South Africa and doing business in South Africa, you need to procure at least a minimum percentage of your spend with South African companies so that those companies can be exposed to the mainstream economy and play in that field and be competitive in that space as well. If you're competing in mining, it is the same thing. It is not about politicians. Yes, we've been in this space. We are not connected. We've made it work. We've made it work because we've marketed ourselves, we've presented our credentials, and we've proved ourselves in that point. And there's many other black businesses that have done that.
And there's
black
been
people just,
and then there's been skills development in that process. There has been like supplier because people, when you talk triple BEE Mo, they want to make it seem like race base is just trying to get black people to be owners of other people's companies. Like it's so limited to that. That's why that's why the DA then says, no, we want to broaden it so that the scoring is based on sustainable development goals and not just on race. But triple BEE scoring is not just about race. It's already broad.
Exactly. It is broad already. It is skills development. It is empowerment. It is companies, startups that come up with good business solutions that just need to be given a chance to participate in the mainstream of the economy.
Yeah. Mo, got you, man. Thank you for your contribution in the East Rand. It's 7 minutes before 10.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
5 minutes before 10 o'clock.
Morning, Clement. Clement, there is nothing wrong with the BEE laws and the employment equity quota systems that have been put in place. The only wrong thing is the people that are trying to take advantage of that system. That means we need to secure the security mechanisms in place much better so that people do not take advantage of the systems and they actually used the way they've been intended to be used. But it is human nature for people to constantly try and take advantage of the system.
Clement, why is there a scarcity mentality when it comes to addressing the economic issues in South Africa? I feel like you have a view that transformation in terms of ownership would be limited without without the BBBEE, and yet we know that this economy is not even potentially functioning at 30 or 40% of its capacity. This economy can still grow so much more, which could potentially have that ability of accommodating every single business that exists in this country, whether it's black or whatever color it comes in. We have this, I feel like we have this scarcity mentality around what is the potential of this economy.
But how do we grow the economy? Because we can still work towards reforms in our policies to grow the economy, reforms that are inclusive, right? In that intention to grow the economy. And that's precisely what BBBEE is intended to do, is that as your business grows or as investors come and they want to invest here, or as your business continues to grow, here are the opportunities to develop and transfer the skills to other communities on the ground, especially black communities, especially women, especially white women too, right? Because when we look at these transformation policies, these inclusive policies, we somehow want to limit to, black people. But the argument I'm trying to make is, if you go read the entire BBBEE system as a policy, the scoring is not just about the racial makeup of the company. There are many other codes there. Ownership, and yes, ownership is important. Because I don't think black people are meant to just be participants or contributors to this economy. They're supposed to be owners of this economy. And the better chance you have is through this policy. Is it perfect? No. Should the commissioner, the regulatory body that's supposed to ensure compliance of companies with this policy, is it doing this work it should be doing? I don't think it's effective enough. Do we then scrap the system because the policy, there are a few corrupt politicians that have somehow exploited this policy to benefit people linked to them, therefore scrap it? No, I don't think so. I think find ways to try and strengthen, right, the regulatory and oversight mechanisms, as opposed to want to come and argue, as the DEA argued at their conference, that when you are a black person, that is not a proxy for disadvantage, even though they acknowledge that apartheid was systematic in its disadvantage against black people, and yet they say black people must not be the beneficiaries, only be the beneficiaries of this contribution to the economy. They must also be the argument we make is they must also be the owners of the economy. But the approach says, yes, people are going to benefit, but we don't think black is a proxy for disadvantage. And yet that's exactly what it was, even during apartheid.